Hi, welcome
Yes.
to the Building Bellingham studio. We're kicking off season 3, episode 1. We're back in the studio. It's been, almost 2 years since we've been in the studio, and you are the one that kicks it off.
Very nice. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, taking time out of your busy day to make this happen. And we're talking here about hardware sales. This is a local building or local Bellingham staple.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the business. How did this start?
So my grandfather started the business back in 62. And what he did was he actually was into the logging field for years. And so he had an interest in logging, but didn't want to drive log trucks. So he actually got into surplus. So he bought a lot of military surplus, Boeing surplus product. And then we got into dynamite for the loggers to build roads.
Love it.
And then when he picked up from there, he bought a 500-ton press, which we could press all the chokers and haulbacks and things that the loggers needed up in the hills to get the trees to the top of the hill or down the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we were small, probably 2-3 employees at that time. And then my dad decided to get into the hardware business with my grandfather and my aunt at the time. And we continued to grow in the hardware, and throughout the years, we just kept on adding this, adding that. And next thing you know, we had an industrial department. We had a rental department. We got into an internet department. And now I think we've grown into, I think we're currently at 144 employees with 3 locations. 1 retail location. We have a 56,000 square foot warehouse in Indianapolis and a 33,000 square foot warehouse in Ferndale.
Wow.
And we just started another level, and that's shipping our products physically into the Amazon warehouses instead of handling the stuff out of our DCs.
Yeah, makes sense. So it all started from, it seems like most really, good things in the world, big things come from pretty humble beginnings typically. And so, it all starts from a simple concept, an idea of, and one track, right? And then you start adding on all these other tracks, and over time the family starts jumping into the business. So really curious about family business, and that can be good and it can be bad, right? It can be one or the other. It can be both. It can have, over the course of time, have both, right? And so how was that when you started when the company was started? Was there like, this is going to be a family business? Was that just a thought, or did the rest of the family, aunt and uncle, jump in and say, hey, this looks like something we can add value to? What was that like?
It was, my grandparents started, and my dad and my aunt came to work for them. And then my aunt's kids, which were older than me, came to work. And then down the line, I came to work. And yes, at one point we had 7 family members working there.
Wow.
And 5 of us were owners. My grandmother, she worked up until her 90s, and she worked 6 days a week, and she probably put in close to 13, 14-hour days. And she was kind of our anchor whenever we were all trying to do different things and try different things. And she would always hold us back and make sure we weren't moving too fast.
Yeah.
But, we tried a lot of things too that definitely didn't work,
right?
Through the years. And there'd be arguments. I mean, it was tough working with so many family members, and a little bit of jealousy here and there. And just over the years, it went through many. Well, I guess even my daughter was working there, and my aunt's grandchildren. So we've had a little bit of 4th generation even in the building now.
Yeah.
So
a lot of the times with a business, having the mix of personal and professional, like we just talked about, can have its pros and its cons. How did you all separate that professional side and say, at the end of the day, when we're done, whether that's 14 hours later, at the end of the day, when we're done, we're going to just separate our minds and just go and do the family thing? What was that like for you all?
For the most part, we could do that. There was naturally a few little hiccups along the way, but as far as my dad and I's relationship, we've never had work get in between us or have any problems, which is really, really nice.
Yeah.
But there was some other stir-ups between us and other family and stuff like that. But we definitely work through it.
Yeah. And, you look at, when you look at the business, you've got this timeline of scale, right? And you started out look with a simple, uh, outlook, a simple mission, and it grew into this huge business, right? Which, it's not a huge business. It's still local. It's maintained this like balance of being able to scale, but staying local and being known as a local business.
Still being old fashioned.
Still being old fashioned. What does that mean to be old fashioned?
We could go and put all the bling in there, but the thing is, we'd have to widen the aisles, and you'd lose a lot of product, and it just we make little changes at a time, and it still keeps things traditional. And we make simple little changes, and we try and really maintain that. But not only the product, but part of us retaining our people, and our people are, we just had one gal retire with 36 years with us.
Wow. And
we've actually just had 2 plumbers retire that were there over 20 years. And they're part of that culture too, of feeling that old town of, with these old school guys that have been doing it forever and really know what they're doing. A lot of our department heads have been in the fields, and they're journeymen and journeyman plumbers, electricians, and so many people have just done this job for so many years, and the customers get to know them, and that gives a lot of that old time, hometown feel in addition to.
And it sounds like that kind of happened naturally by the way that you all run the business, and you all work as well. The work ethic, the commitment to expertise, the commitment to learning your trade. But how do you as a leader in your company, project that to other people? How do you inspire somebody who is good at what they do to continue to do that, or to what kind of culture do you provide where people want to stick around for 20 or 30 years?
We really the biggest thing is we don't tell anybody to do anything. We ask them to do stuff. And the way I go about it is I ask with open questions. I know what the answer is, but I lead them to the answer that I'm looking for. So it's then their idea when they get to the question I'm asking them.
Right.
And so then it's their idea, and then they take ownership in it and want to do it. So I don't even need to ask them to do it. It's like, hey, what a great idea.
Yeah.
How long will it take you to get it done?
Yeah.
And and we got a really good team relationship and great communication with our people. We have an open door policy with everybody. There's very rarely is my door ever shut. And, it's nice to challenge our guys on creating new processes and bettering the store. And they come out to my office all the time, let me know, hey, I just did this and I just did this. And some of the greatest ideas and time-saving ideas come from actually some of the newest employees, even, as well as some of the older guys. And it's really neat to see of new standards and procedures and just new stuff happening all the time.
Yeah, new perspectives, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And one of the best ones was we had this little open door that we ship freight on a second floor. So the forklift has to come up, load it through the door. And for years, they'd call on the radio, taking up time. Hey, balcony, can you open up the man door or the overhead door upstairs? It's like, no, tied up with the customer, taking up radio time.
Yeah.
And so they'd have to set the forks down, take out their seatbelt, set the e-brake, put it in park, run upstairs, and open the door, run downstairs, and then put the pallet up, and then repeat the procedure. And they do it about 8 times a day. So someone finally says, hey, why don't we get garage door openers on our forklifts? And we got to thinking about it and started adding up time. And all of a sudden, I think we added it up. And just with that one door alone, over a year, it saved us, I think it was 132 hours per year.
A lot of time.
With a simple little idea, right? So we really empower our people to come up with these good ideas like that. And what that does when they do, one idea is not going to change the world. But if you come up with 10, 20, 30 good ideas, all of a sudden your stress level starts to decline. And if your stress level's declining, you can start working on a good culture, good morale, and truly enjoying your job.
Yeah.
We all have to work for a living. So what can we do to make our job enjoyable?
Right.
So who wants to go to a job that they dislike? If we could all go to work for Disneyland every day, the happiest place on earth, that'd
Yeah.
be it, right?
Yeah. There you go. Well, you're talking about progress too and contribution. I think there's a human desire to be contributing to something that directly impacts yourself, but then also impacts something bigger than yourself, with company, community, whatever it may be. And then also input, like seeing something that you thought up, and then somebody who's higher up in the company or an owner going, "It's a great idea. How can we refine this? How can we implement this?" So that's truly amazing that you've created that culture in there. And one of the themes that I've kind of heard you talk about is that you started out, with a very simple position, and then you worked up into a leadership position. How important do you think that is for people within the company to start in the trenches, learning the basics, and then working their way up from there to becoming an expert at that position or growing into a leadership position?
I think it's very important. We just hired a guy's going to be starting here in a month. And even though he's got a tremendous amount of knowledge about the product, he doesn't know the culture. He doesn't know the computer system. And he and I kind of said, real open, what's going to be your comfort level for coming in to work? I said, I've got an idea, but I want to hear what your idea is. He goes, if I could go and like work around the store and in some of the departments and really learn what you have, what brands you have, and not just throw me out into the wolves with on the road. And then I'm trying to sell stuff which I don't know you have, or it's just going to make it tougher. And it's like, you're exactly bringing up exactly what I was thinking would be perfect. Because if we work him around all the departments for a couple days and he's really paying attention, waiting on customers, he really gets to know all the product we carry. He can learn the phone systems from the other guys. He can learn the computer systems, and really make it a lot easier for when he goes out on the road for outside sales.
Yeah. Learning the flip side of what he's selling, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And, he gets to learn the names of the department heads and the departments. And, those are great tools for him when he gets out on the road, that if you can call the department head and talk to him, hey, where are we buying this? What's our cost? How many do we have? He can at least call him by name. And it helps him learn the hardware sales way and the hardware sales culture.
So you talk about the hardware sales way and the hardware sales culture. We've all actually been here in the studio, been in recently to hardware sales, and there's a certain experience that we had, which was great. And it's different than a big box store, right? When you define culture, someone's walking in your front door looking for that part, 1 in 70,000, piece part, right? What is that experience that you and your company set forth? What is that experience like?
Our expectation is that we grab them by the hand and put the product in their hand and not point and say it's down there someplace, even if it's taking them upstairs, or if you don't know, get them hooked up with the people that do know, and create a good experience for those people. And with this COVID and everything we've went through, we've had a little bit of turnover, and actually we've had a fair amount of people retire, and it's been a challenge to get up to the level that we want. So we're actually under the level that we normally like to be right now with the turnover that we've had.
So you had people that knew, where the, XYZ part was in this department, and try this, but if this doesn't work, give this a try and grab some WD-40. They had like the whole package for each customer that came in. And because of COVID, they've retired or, taken more time off or whatever it is.
Yeah, we just went through a big round of retirement. We lost one in our cable shop. Within 2 weeks, we lost 2 in our plumbing, one in our industrial, one in our hardware section, and we're going to be having one on the balcony retire here in 2 months. They were all retirements.
Yeah.
And then that's on top of your other turnover, which
right.
We've had some guys leave to go into the field just lately. So that's definitely like a lot of us out there have had some hiring challenges.
Yeah. It's been a tough time for a lot of people. And I imagine with supply chain and with, being in vicinity of people and all the unknowns, it does even make it more challenging as well. So there's been, starting in 1962, there's been generation after generation after generation passing down, and the world changes, every decade, every 5 years, whatever that is. Like there's always changes happening in the world. and at the core, you've always had this, you know, local business, right? You're this, you know, old school local business with all of the new school things that you need to be successful. So tell me about that progression of like day one, here's how things were at this time. And as it got passed down to generation, you know, to generation to now you and the ownership that's currently there.
One of the biggest generational changes was when we first computerized. We used to handwrite all the invoice. We had this old stamp. You'd stick the invoice in, and you'd have to get the steel card out for their account, put it in, stamp it, and then you had to handwrite every invoice. And get my grandmother to approve to computerize was very difficult. My dad worked at it, and then she finally agreed to do it, but she didn't want us to go live. And first off, it was making sure everything was getting loaded in the system for what it was, which, you know, if we had, I don't know, 400, 500,000 items back then, everything had to get loaded into the system for a first time. Yeah. And then trying to keep things accurate. Once it was loaded, then you had to load the inventory. Then barcodes started coming along. So we just really had to transition through all that slowly, and lots of errors along the way. And it was very, very difficult. I think it took us 3 years to get fully computerized, if not longer.
Yeah. Has it been worth it though? Definitely.
Oh, it has been. And then, you know, we just kept on evolving and building slowly on that. Now all our inventory is completely on our phone today.
Yeah.
So I can put in a model number or description right on my phone. It'll tell me what I paid, how many I have, how many I've sold. I can do it from anywhere in the world now.
Yeah.
Right in my pocket, which is awfully nice.
So with your grandmother, it sounds like there was just this incredible work ethic. And obviously that she was, you know, she's from a generation where you gotta, I mean, we're all still working hard, but that's you know, with no technology, nothing to, you know, leverage or really make things easier. It's all basically one-to-one action to result, right? Just working, you said 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then you came around with this computer system and said, hey, we're going to change this up to make it easier. And she goes, no, this is the way it is.
That was my dad that came around.
Oh, he came around with it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then we just, that was probably the biggest hurdle in our whole history was computerization. That was my dad and my grandmother's era, with her not wanting the change and him wanting the change.
Yeah.
And then we just, you know, the family created a tremendously great foundation for us, and we got to come in and just slowly build upon it and keep on growing. And one thing that we've always done was reinvested the profits back into the corporation for years and years and years. So it, even today we're still building and taking on new lines and building out our rental division and just having a good time with it.
Yeah. And for people that are listening that are starting a business or in that first year, 2 years, whatever it may be, and they're listening to this story about, you know, 60 years of experience and challenges and failures and successes. You just said something about investing back into the business. And I think a lot of people start out a business and they want to immediately pay themselves well. What is that? Did you just learn to invest back into the business, or was that something that was taught to you by dad, grandparents? I mean, was that just always a company culture? Just, we're going to keep growing this by reinvesting?
That's what the family's kind of done the whole time. But, you know, the business had always taken care of us. So we want to make sure that the business came first, and we took care of the business first. That was very important to us. And if we take care of the business will take care of us. And, you know, you've gone through some tough times, and I've always kept the bulldozer blade down and the pedal to the metal, you know, and, you know, keep it right on that almost dangerous edge. But it works out. And, you know, you take a big step and you make a big move, and then, you know, you're into your line of credit for quite a while, and it takes a few years to build out, and then you try something different, and then you're back in your line of credit and you build yourself out. And we've done that 4 or 5 different times. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like there's always been somebody in the company or multiple people in the company that have a risk tolerance. And then maybe, you know, grandma held it down with understanding how to run a business, but she may have like kept you guys a little bit more grounded or kept everybody a little. Tell me about who are the risk takers and what are the pros and cons for the company of taking a risk versus playing it safe, or what are those types of scenarios? Yeah.
Well, everything has a different type of risk to
Right.
it. You know,
Right.
is your risk, are you buying a bunch of inventory, and can you sell down that inventory and recoup your costs and get back out of the hole? Or like the last one we did, this 56,000 square foot building back in Indianapolis, we were tied into a pretty big lease payment on that.
Mm-hmm, sure.
So the rent each month is pretty substantial, plus the inventory. So then you'd have to ship all the inventory. See, if when things break in Ferndale or aren't selling well, we just ship them to the main store and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
When it's clear back in Indy, there's a whole different level of risk for us there.
Right.
So, we can't just ship it back to the store.
Yeah.
And yeah, we tried an office furniture store down in Mount Vernon, and there's a perfect example of one thing that worked great. We had a contract with Office Depot. We got all their special order inventory that went bad, all their scratch and dent. You get a case of paper, and once that strap's broken, it goes in a truck. We were paying them 10 cents on the dollar, and about every week and a half, we'd get a 48-foot semi-load.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'd pull it into our office furniture store, and we'd sell new desks and used desks and chairs, chair mats, file cabinets, and all that. But, that was a great business for quite a while. And the thing is technology changes business.
Mm-hmm.
That was a perfect example of Wi-Fi coming in. You don't need your tower at your desk and your monitor on your desk anymore. You got Wi-Fi, your laptop, go sit outside.
Right.
So, you store all your paperwork or everything on what you used to hold in your file cabinet is now stored in your computer. Yep. You don't need the file cabinet. A lot of people went to lean desks, so they went to stand-up desks, so they don't need a chair or chair mat anymore. So you lost the chair, the chair mat, the file cabinet, and so many people don't even have home desks anymore like they used to. It was a big thing for a while. So technology kind of outgrew the office furniture market for us. And we're looking at that building. It's like, yeah, what could we do with that? And it's like, why don't we look at rental equipment? Mm-hmm. And rental equipment, we saw some other companies, had some other friends that were doing it, and tried it out and found it to be a pretty profitable company for us. So we're currently still expanding into rental and growing it.
You guys you're constantly, it sounds like you're well networked. So you know a lot of people in your industry, and you kind of, you maybe notice little things or big things that these other companies are doing and saying, that sounds like a good idea. And then you're just willing to try it. And then yeah. I see so many people fail, not because of, not, giving it their best shot. They just don't try at all.
Yeah.
And so you've been willing to try, willing to take risk, willing to fail. Right. But then how have you been able to read these trends? Like you just told me about a trend that I didn't even know about with office furniture, which it makes sense to me, but were you guys pretty quick to pick up on these? Oh, wow, these sales are dropping right now. Oh, it's because of this particular impact or this influence. I mean, how did you just keep adapting as things just?
Well, we keep adapting, but yeah. we try and stay ahead of it and always look towards the future. And we knew office furniture would come to an end, but we didn't know how fast. So we got out while the getting was good.
Yeah.
But, there's other things that when we're looking to grow into different businesses, it's like rental. So we sell pressure washers, and you got a $1,200 pressure washer, and you got a lot of people that want to buy that $1,200 pressure washer, but know they should be buying a $600 pressure washer, right? With their budget. So it's like, he's really looking at that, and he tells me he doesn't have the money for it. It's like, hey, why don't we go over to rental? I've got one that maybe has 10, 12 rents on it. We can get the price down there. Then he can get the Cadillac for the reduced cost and get exactly what you want. And, that goes with any of the stuff that we have in rental. Once we rent it out a few times, we can sell it at a reduced rate, getting people into that higher name brand product that they know is going to last, more commercial product.
Yeah. Wow. So it just sounds, I'm just really impressed because it's something that we try to do in our industry too. And I'm always very it gets me excited, inspired, because it means you're constantly on. Like you're constantly going, you're constantly researching, you're constantly talking to other people. How do you, as a person, shut off? How does your family, like when because there's a point that you get to where you're like, okay, I have to go fish, golf, go on vacation, just not answer my phone. Like, what is that like as a leader? How do you find that space and block it out and make it happen?
When you love what you do, you never turn it off.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
All my friends tell me I need to turn it off once in a while, but I live it. I love what I do, and it I can shut it off when I want to.
Yeah.
If I get tired, I will, but my mind's usually always going.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad thing for me.
Yeah.
But not a workaholic either.
Yeah.
But you're always just thinking of new things or how you can better yourself or better this or better that, or you're going to talk to this guy and move him over here. It's always a chess game with employees.
Yep.
And that's one of the toughest things in our line of work is naturally people.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That's a big challenge for us.
Yeah. Systems usually work pretty well, right?
Oh yeah.
People, it depends on the day. It depends on the time of day. It depends on if they've eaten. It depends on what's going on in their personal life. And, you might be showing up and completely blocking it out and making it, your priority to be there and be professional. And maybe they don't that day.
Exactly. Exactly.
So tell me about hiring. And I mean, you guys clearly don't have, like, you've had people there for a long, long time. And part of it is, ramping up with a new employee or a new leader in the company takes time. So what are you looking for when you're selecting somebody that's a good fit for the company?
When I do the hiring myself, which Joe, our general manager, does a lot of it, but, taking a job is, I like taking a lot of time on interviews. Because I mean, when you're taking a job, you're talking about a lot of time spent in a place and a pretty major decision, almost a bigger decision than buying a house.
Yep.
It's your life that you're going to be spending a lot of time there. So I really like to get to know the person when I'm interviewing them. And, as far as our reputation goes, it's not Joe, it's not myself, it's not our managers to give hardware sales its name. It's every team member that we have down there on the floor. So it's so important to us to spend that time with these new hires to make sure we're really putting the right people with the right attitude on the sales floor and on our workforce. Yep. And if we can put a great team on there, on that sales floor, it reduces our stress.
Yeah.
Because they have good communication skills and, they're energetic. They're exactly what we're looking for. And we can teach in so many different aspects. But, getting the right people and really making sure you don't hold on to the wrong people too long.
Mm-hmm.
We've all done that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's this relationship between an employee and an employer, right? And there is a hierarchy to it, right? Mm-hmm. To a certain extent. But how do you create a space where people can come back and give you, as, in leadership or ownership, how do you create a safe space for an employee to come back and go, I don't like that, but not in a way that like it's not constructive, right?
It's difficult, but it's also called honesty.
Yeah.
And if something's bothering them and they don't like something I see, who doesn't want to better themselves?
Yeah.
So if they're telling me I've got a weakness, I want to hear about it.
Yeah.
And hopefully they do too. And it's just having good productive communication with them is so important.
Yep. Yeah. Let's switch over and talk a little bit about scale. I mean, you guys started small scale.
Yeah.
And have just kind of by just being curious, your mind sounds like it started with the core of grandma, just going and going and going, hard work, but also this entrepreneurial spirit, being risk takers. But how do you tell me about this timeline of, okay, well, we just decided that we were going to get into rentals. Then we decided we were going to open this. You don't just cut to, and all of a sudden you have this big business. Tell me a little bit more about scale and what it was like going from 2 to 3 employees to 144 employees.
Well, when I came on, we probably had about 30 employees. So I just turned 50 last week, and
well, happy birthday.
I started when I was 20. So 30 years ago. We back then it was much harder to grow because we didn't have the resources. And we had a lot of owners with a lot of different ideas. So there was a lot of communication and, are we going to try this? Are we going to try that? And boy, we tried so many things. We tried the office furniture store down in Mount Vernon. We tried a cabinet division. We've tried a rebar fabrication shop. Those are all areas that we tried that have failed on us. There's probably a few more as well that I'm probably not remembering. But, you just want to make sure that you're not doing too many new things, trying them out all at once, and you can keep it under management and keep a handle on it. But that's where, you never want to grow too big too fast, and really try and keep a handle on it. And, we've pushed it to the limits a couple times.
Yeah.
With some big ones, and the Indianapolis location was one of our biggest ones, and had to take quite a loan out and a lot of risk. And boy, there was challenges through that. There was a lot of internet fraud going on. There's a lot of people stealing product off people's porches. And, I think 1 year just in fraud alone, I want to say we lost probably about $120,000 just in fraud.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's spooky, and that didn't get calculated in on the numbers.
No, we don't expect it. You're seeing this huge opportunity with the internet and being able to ship direct, right?
Yeah.
And expand nationally, right? And internationally, right?
Yep.
And you see that, but you see the opportunity. The entrepreneur says, "Wow, I see this opportunity," but then there's a lot of people out there that are out there to get you.
Yeah. Yeah. But whenever you start any of those, it's toughest when you first get it going. It's like, say you have a spigot with a bucket underneath, and that bucket's got about 16 holes, and that spigot's all the way on, and it's not holding any water, right?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like when you start it. And then you finally get 3 holes in the bucket plugged, and 4 new holes pop up. And, it takes, you always think, okay, we're going to be here in 6 months. It always takes 3 times longer than what you think it's going to take. I think we've all been through that. I'm going to start this project. I'm going to have it done in an hour. 3 hours later, I misestimated that one. Right?
Yeah.
And so we calculate that in whenever we do anything too. And it's, if you think it's going to cost you $100, figure on 200.
Yeah.
And more time, and you're going to hit hiccups. And like this January, we just started moving our product into FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. So it's physically in Amazon's warehouses. And we have all kinds of holes in the bucket right now that we're trying to work on and get patched up, and because it's something new again.
Right.
And we had it pretty much mastered selling out of our own warehouses, but really mastering the FBA is a little bit different. And every day we learn something new.
Yeah. Love it. And was it, I'm assuming, a family decision, a leadership decision to say, hey, we're going to go to Indianapolis. Why Indianapolis? Why 56,000 square feet? Tell me about that whole process of, we're going to go big.
Yeah, well, we had some contracts with some different companies that we're going to fill, and then we're going to also warehouse some product for other companies. And actually, looking back, I think we could have got by with about 24,000 square feet right now, because things have changed, and things are currently always changing and revolving for us. And right now we don't need that square footage. And there's been some other challenges that we've gone through, dealing with a lot of these huge companies. They're dictators. It used to be we were the customer, the customer's king. And anymore, we're not the customer anymore. We get dictated to. So through that whole venture, we found ourselves going away from some of these huge companies like DeWalt and Milwaukee, and those are all dictatorships, and going towards, we'll call those the A companies, and getting down to the B- and C companies that you actually have relationships with. And you can get good communication, good teamwork going, and get on a good roll and do some greatness for both parties.
Yeah.
And, dealing with Amazon, of course, one of the biggest companies in the world, it's very difficult to even communicate with them through email. You can't get them through phone, and trying to get answers a lot of times.
Yep.
It's very, very difficult. And that's one of the biggest challenges out there
Yep.
is communication with these gigantic companies. You're pretty much on your own.
Yep. But it's, with a company like Amazon, it's definitely like a necessary leg to the chair, right? It's necessary. And one of the cool things you just said was you got really specific and you started targeting the companies that you wanted to work with because of that relational piece, which was in line with how you run the company, right? And I think when it gets exciting for a business to say, hey, we got this huge contract or we've got this big company that's interested in working with us. But that is a really amazing lesson when you said, I want the relationship. Tell me a little bit more, maybe speak to the entrepreneur that is, early on in their business and think back to when the company was earlier on versus now, and how you've got targeted and more specific on the customer, on who you want to go for on the contracts.
Yeah, one of the things our suppliers, this isn't exactly where you want to head, but a lot of our suppliers, what they had was, they wholesaled all these different people, and then they'd even, in a lot of cases, wholesale to Amazon themselves. And then they're in brick and mortars, they're online, and they're doing 3-step distribution. And then all of a sudden their price gets beat down to where nobody's making any money. And they go to Amazon and say, hey, you can't sell that for that price. Well, and Amazon gets back to them and says, well, it's not us. Yeah. It's an algorithm. And so anybody that put a price in lower, ours just down to theirs. And so then the prices get driven down. So that's where a lot of these companies have come to us. It's like, yeah, we're going to let all the other internet people go. We're going to tie in only to you guys. We'll have that communication. We're going to get the retails back up, because if those retails get beat down, there's a lot of brick and mortars across the US don't want to carry it because they can't make any money at it and keep their doors open because there's no profitability in it. So what we do is we establish relationships with them. They tell us where they want their map pricing to be. We list it, and then we work together to get those other people trying to backdoor that drive the price down so everybody can win. Their brick and mortars stay profitable, their distribution stays strong, and our agreement is we handle the Amazon piece for them. We've done it with a company like Spyderco Knives. We've done it with Scratch and Peck chicken feeds. One of the companies we're working with right now is Barleen Organic. A couple local companies there.
Absolutely.
And there's a big one called Fine Tool, a German company that has a multi-master tool. And we just started with this door jam company. So we're slowly growing that leg of work for us.
So it's almost like there's one side of it, which is the sales side of it, the retail sales side of it, and the other side is you're problem solving. You're coming in and you're consulting, saying, hey, we're going to handle this other piece that allows you to be able to buy this product and continue this way of life that has been around since, the start of America.
Yeah. Yep.
Brick and mortar.
Yep.
And how has that been for you and for the company? There's two sides to the business. You have to be online. That's just the way it is now, right? But how have you managed to keep that brick and mortar side going? Because it's, so many businesses rely on it.
Well, opening up the internet helps us with our buying power, keep us competitive. And one of the things that we've always looked at, and one of the reasons that led us to internet sales was, just selling flat retail. Can you buy enough to get the buying power that you need just to sell retail? So then we said, let's go after that contractor business. So at least maybe we can get our buying power up a little bit. So we opened up our industrial sales division. So then we were selling retail, industrial sales. And then we led over to the internet side. And so now we got retail sales, our industrial sales, and our internet side to help us feed that buying power. Yep. And then we even did a little bit of wholesaling at one point too, and to sell some larger volume. And so, we've always, the more people you can sell one product to and the more you can pull in, the more negotiating power you have on your costs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've worked hard at that through the years.
It sounds like it just continues to be kind of scratching the next necessary itch, right? Within the world to provide more value, right?
Yep.
And you're doing that by investing back into a new division, a new leader in that division, whatever it may be. So,
and you always want to look at things as you're pulling new products in. You want to look at things with what we call our internet proof.
mm-hmm.
Are you going to order peen online? Probably not, because are you going to get the proper color match and order it online? Your ready mix, your pipe, your ladders, things of that nature. Are you going to rent something out of California for the weekend, have it shipped up and shipped back? So that's one thing that we're always looking at too. Is it internet proof
mm-hmm.
on new products that we're pulling in and trying?
Is it, and also on cost too? Is it something that where if it's not what they thought it was, is it going to be a real thorn in their side to say, oh, I got to send it back or eat the cost or whatever it may be? Yeah. So internet proof, that's an interesting concept. How did you guys develop that? Like, was that just something that you just started looking at and saying, ooh, we can't put this one online. We can put this one online. We can't, like, is it just by sorting and then eventually just became this category of internet proofing for the company?
Well, you just kind of train yourself and ask yourself where can it sell?
Yeah.
And, there's for shipping, there's dimensional weight, and we used to be able to sell a lot of stuff. And then the shipping companies changed their ways and it made it a lot of product to where we couldn't sell it anymore.
Yeah.
Just because it was too big to ship and too expensive for its costs.
Yeah. Kind of trial by error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we had calculated out, Steve Dowers that runs our internet he and Andrew put this beautiful package together that they can throw the cost, the weight and everything in. And then they'll go to online. They can see what that product's selling for and see if there's any profit in it.
Yeah.
So he's got a little system built to where he can simplify the process pretty easy and quick to see if it's worth us pulling in.
Nice. It's kind of like an algorithm system where he can it hits these certain points. This makes sense to try. Let's try. And then you have, someone on the finance side, or maybe you step in and say, we can allocate a budget to try this out, to give it a go and see how it.
They've got this. They've actually built this little program that does it for us.
That's awesome.
And it takes the size, weight, price, and then they put in the retail price and figure out. And then they usually take, okay, so let's figure it on shipping the furthest we'd ship something, and see what kind of profits left over after everything's said and done.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It probably helps. Yeah,
it really
good
helps.
Thing you put in the computer systems, right?
Oh, I'll tell you, it's not, like I said earlier, it's not me. A lot of this came from a lot of great people management that works for us, and Steve and Andrew out at the internet, Lindsay. So many of our team members are just geniuses and really make some great choices.
Yeah.
And which makes our life very easy and helps us grow in the right direction, and a lot of communication and interaction.
Yeah. And as a leader, I mean, I see so many of, really successful businesses have something really in common, which is this concept of team. And it's not just all about the person that owns the company, but it's about how can you empower the people that are more specialized in something or better than you as the leader at something. How important is team to you?
Very important. Yeah. And all of us, we try and feed into each other's strengths, and everybody has different views and different strengths.
Yeah.
And we really try and feed on people's views and strengths.
Yeah.
It's just like one of our guys, Andrew, that guy can see the finish line that he wants, and he might know that it's going to take 100 steps in that computer. He'll build a program to get you to the finish line in an automated fashion.
Yeah.
And Joe, she's an incredible writer and an incredible people person. She's our human resource gal, and she's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Steve, he's one heck of a negotiator. His arithmetic skills are just incredible, and his vision of logistics and how to put things to work are amazing as well.
So watch out for Steve on the sales floor, right?
He runs the internet, the whole internet division. So he's in charge of Indianapolis, Ferndale, all the purchasing, all the inventory that goes into there, a lot of negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
He's brought some of these bigger accounts, most of these bigger accounts on.
Yeah. And from a marketing perspective, first of all, you've targeted this need within your industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or within cross industries, right? That you're a part of, right? Tell me a little bit more about this. Who are you marketing to? How are you marketing? Who are you marketing to? How do you pick up new customers? Or even just locally here in Bellingham, how does someone go, I'm going to go to hardware sales versus a Lowe's, or how do you convey the message of the store to them?
Well, first off, you want to try and get that household name.
Yep.
And we cheated a little bit. You know, they were doing a survey when you bring up your most favorite hardware store, you know, who would you say? Well, it's kind of in the name there. So it's cheating, but
a little SEO there.
Yeah. It's so hard to go against the national accounts of Home Depot and Lowe's, you know, when they watch them, you know, they see it plastered on NASCARs and all over advertising everywhere. Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, we really tried to hit it with service and just making a great name for ourselves and, you know, create a good experience for those customers. And, you know, it's those customers that provide us with work. Without the customers, we wouldn't have a job.
Right.
And so we got to treat all those customers, you know, those are our bosses. And if we can portray great customer service, then, you know, that'll keep us successful. And we've been very fortunate. We have catered, you know, a lot of people come in and think we're a little bit too contractor based. And, you know, we put in, expanded in our paint and our lawn and garden a little bit, soften it up. But we are industrial based. And there's another one, our outside salesmen are calling on a lot of local manufacturing, and we go out to Whidbey Island down in Seattle. We call on some of those skyscraper builders, and we push a lot of Makita tools, for instance, down to a lot of those skyscraper outfits down there.
So yeah, just sticking with the lane that you're in, and it's, you know, you can expand outside into different parts of the freeway, essentially, for sake of the metaphor, but you're sticking to that. You're saying, look, they can do that. They can be on NASCARs. Here's what we're going to do, and kind of having your horse blinders on and just focusing on what you guys do.
Yeah. One of the most common things we hear is, God, I've been 3 places. I need to just start coming here first.
Yeah.
You know, we hear that so often, and it's, you know, one big part of it is having enough of the right inventory.
Yeah.
And so the inventory management on your products is huge.
Yeah. How do you do that?
It's well, this past 18 months has been the most difficult. It's like what should take you 10 seconds is now taking you 40 seconds for every move. There's so much shortage in the industry across the board. Container prices I heard for a 40-foot container overseas, which used to be $2,200, I've heard they're going for $20,000.
That's a big hike.
And then they're still struggling. There's a container shortage on top of that. So people aren't getting shipments in. It's been quite the challenge, where most of your companies like us are a standard ACE store, do it best store, true value store. We are a do it best store, but we also order from 4 different major warehouses beyond that, where usually those ACE stores only buy from their ACE stores. So when one's out, we can jump to this warehouse, or this warehouse. And hopefully they all had staggered shipments. And so we've been pretty successful at having many different resources through this.
So keeping your options open there. And so for you, or the person that would be doing any sort of ordering or inventory management, how like, let's just say during normal times, like pre-COVID, we, you know, still probably quite the job to plan, order, manage, and ensure that it's stocked. So you have all of these different pieces. How do you decide that, you know, this is selling better, you know, part A is selling better than part B, and therefore we need, you know, 10 times more of these, and this is going to cost this much, but it's going to take us this long. How does that work?
Well, if you know a price increase coming up, we try and buy up, you know, depending on how much it's going up, we'll buy up sometimes 6-7 months worth. But you never know where these shortages are going to pop up. So we kind of took our whole inventory from keeping about a month and a half supply to about 2.5 to 3 months worth of inventory. So when you have that additional inventory in house, when they do pop up, it frees you up for time to pursue that product that you're short on, because you're not having orders often on all that other product. And with inflation we're going through, we accidentally kind of fell into that, carrying heavier inventory, so we could beat the increases by having old inventory in a lot of the cases too.
That makes sense. And so that was planned.
No, it wasn't planned. We got lucky.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And how much of running a business do you think, luck and planning and hard work? I mean, what's the mix?
A lot of educated guesses, right?
I love it.
I don't know. You get a lot of experience over the years, but you do get lucky in a lot of cases too. But then you get unlucky in a lot of cases. Um, we've had it to where there was a conduit shortage, which we're going through right now, about 10 years ago when there was a hurricane back on the East Coast. And again, nobody could get resins to make conduit. So there's a conduit shortage for about 4 months. And we kept on selling truckload after truckload after truckload. And then the orders kept on coming. We had to be out about 3 weeks on them to stay ahead of the game. And then all of a sudden we had 3 truckloads and the market fell down, and, you paid $200 per 100. And now all of a sudden the price dropped to $100 per 100. So you had to take a loss on all of it.
Stuck with the bag. Yeah.
Yeah. So it certainly happens both ways.
Yep.
And so at one point right now we got a lot of inflation, but what happens when things start getting caught up again and it starts dropping?
You're stuck with inventory.
Yeah. Just like OSB.
Yep. Oh yeah, I know all about that.
About that, right?
Yeah, gold, the new gold, right?
But then, so those stuck on inventory now, I guess it dropped from the high 70s clear back down to, what is it? Back down to $14, $15 again.
Yep.
But what if you had it at 70?
Yep. Yeah, whole lumber package. Yeah. So the future of hardware sales. I mean, it's tough. It sounds like you've lived with your mind on the future, learning from the past, but really just kind of like, this is whatever's next. We're going to try to just do one thing at a time, not just overload ourselves. So are you guys getting back into dynamite, or what's the next step?
Well, got a great team, very driven team. And then I've got my daughter right now. She's going to business school.
That's amazing.
Up at Western. So she's starting her 3rd year. So we'll see what she wants to do down the line too. But I've got some great people that can certainly handle the business.
Yeah.
And, I've still got a lot of years in front of me and looking forward to it. But we don't know where the next venture is. One of the big ones that we just did about 2 months ago was we went from 5 family members, and then my grandmother passed away. We bought out my cousin, took us down to 3 family members, and then my aunt, she's in her 80s and chose to retire. Mm-hmm. So my dad and I are the last 2. So that was a big one, having to buy her out there. Mm-hmm. And that was a good deal for all of us. And so now we've got to recover from that. Right. So that's not a big business change on, add a new department, anything like that, but it hurt us in the pocketbook a little bit. So we have to recoup from that. So we got to be pretty careful on our growth right now, but we're continuing to grow our internet division. We're continuing to grow our rental division. Mm-hmm. And if there's new lines or anything for hardware that we can pick up, we're certainly always looking, which we have a few in mind right now.
It's awesome. And for, the guy that's starting up a new business or has a dream or has a vision, or the gal that's, looking to start a new business in town, what advice do you have as being part of a business, starting new parts of a business, taking risks? What advice do you have for someone that's just in the infancy?
God, there's gotten to be so much red tape. I'd say run. But, the Small Business Development Center, or what they call it up at college, they've got a good program to really walk you through it. I highly recommend that. They're great people. They lay everything out, because so many people, I mean, there's so much red tape out there right now. I couldn't imagine having to start over. Yeah. I mean, if you just read through all the L&I stuff, it'd be a lifetime to read through, right? I don't know how anybody can know everything and do everything and stay within the lines anymore. Mm-hmm. And there's just, gosh, there's so much risk right now. And it's tough. Yeah. It's tough and it's spooky, but I was very fortunate where the family handed me a great foundation that, we went through a lot of the stuff already. And so I could grab that foundation and run with it. Right. But yeah, new people starting up business, it's certainly a challenge, and you're going to make mistakes, and make sure you budget for those mistakes.
Yeah. And stick with it, right?
And stick with it. Yep.
You better love it.
And put in a lot of hard hours, and and prepare to put the money back in the business for a while.
Yeah, most of it,
Yep.
or all of it.
Yep.
Well, Ty, thank you so much for joining us today on the Building Bellingham podcast. We're kicking off season 3. Thank you for sharing the story. Excited to see the new Dynamite division, and I'll be a customer, I think, right? Can I be?
Absolutely.
Awesome.